What's your claim to fame? I was briefly a pen pal of a Simpsons writer, and he sent me a bunch of demos for songs he wrote for the show. That's really ducking cool actually. At the university, we had a super annoying professor who would demand we basically memorize the 2 thick textbooks he wrote. They were awfully expensive bricks. During my preparation for the exam, I rewrote them. I literally made a more condensed, better structured version of the text, including the stuff that was only passed down orally at lectures. The result was just one brick of a book, in ebook, and I posted it online, on my private pages that only friends had the password to, except after I got an A. I sort of left the password lying around for the year below me to find. The professor found out that nobody was buying his book anymore and was pissed. He never found out where the kids were getting the updated version. He threatened but nobody budged. Some years down the line I visited my old university and kids were still passing down the password for that book. Nobody knew me by name, just by the website title. But I felt pretty proud. I am not going to lie. This is awesome. And I am proud and jealous of you. I played a GD extra in AOTC, and you used to be able to buy my autograph on the interwebs for like $3 or something. For Star Wars nerds there were a bunch of us extras. For whatever reason I was the extra giant into the final 12 in the arena, which is why you do not see him get on the escape shuttle, and that became a point of canon in the comics and sort of why my character fights Mace Windu and scares him away. So I guess my claim to fame is Samuel Jackson is scared of me and ran away. Would you do an Ask Me Anything? I am a big Star Wars fan and would love to see that. Now, it was a 2 or 3 day thing mostly sitting around, and it was over 20 years ago so there is not much I could expand on. I was called up out of everyone in my primary school by a clown that was performing. I was given a stink bomb for being a great assistant. As soon as I sat down I let it off, and the whole school had to be let out of the school hall. I think one kid even puked. There was no way that was not exactly what the clown was planning. I agree giving a 6-7 year old a stink bomb is asking for trouble. I used to visit this lake house when I was a kid. At the thinnest part of the lake, kids would always try to swim from one end to the other without taking a breath. But no one could. I was able to do it, which was pretty cool. Yay. The next year I went back. Some kids were talking about how a boy was able to swim across last year. I was still famous. The next year after that, kids were talking about how 2 years ago a kid had swam across and back without taking a breath. By the 3rd year I was hearing that 3 years ago a boy had swam across the widest part of the lake and back without taking a breath. The details kept getting more impressive. It has been decades now. So by now I am sure they were saying I swam across the Pacific without taking a breath. I have a similar story. When I was a senior in high school, I jokingly organized a senior lap toward the end of the school year. A few people in my class started, and then we walked to each classroom and recruited more to join. It sort of grew and grew until we were walking the halls, through the auditorium, through the library, through the main principal's office and back. I've been out of school for over 20 years, and within the last couple years I heard they were still taking the senior lap. Nobody knows it, but I started that. That's legit cool as hell. In 2006, Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx made a Miami Vice movie. In this movie, there is a scene where Colin Farrell asks some girl if she wants to hop in his boat and roll over to Cuba to go dancing. I, personally, made the windshield to that boat. So basically, I'm a movie star. Johnny Depp did a movie in 1994 where he was running through a hotel lobby nick of time. You can see the back of my head in one of the chairs. So, yep, I'm a movie star too. That chair is going places. Steve Buscemi once offered me a joint. Engrave it on my tombstone. Noted. Forever ago, before the internet and instant access to everything, you had to figure things out on your own. That, or in the case of NES games, call the game counselors. Well, I got Dragon Warrior pretty much as soon as it came out. Was a huge RPG fan. Found out about it and it looked good. Fast forward a few weeks and I have made my way to the final castle. But I cannot find the boss after hours of searching what I believe to be everywhere. So I get permission to make the long distance call to the counselors. I explain what game I'm playing, where I'm at, and what I have done and searched so far, and the counselor is stumped, which shocked my young mind. They are supposed to know everything. They ask if I can hold for a few minutes. After that he comes back and says, "No one here has gotten that far yet. And honestly we did not know it was possible to get where you are yet without the strategy guide that is not going to be released for another 2 or 3 weeks. We are trying to find out what to do next, but it is gonna take a while. We do not want to run up your phone bill. Here is a toll-free number. Call back. I will be waiting to answer." So I call, get the same guy, but no, a conference line this time with 2 or 3 other people. They tell me they are trying to find more information on the final castle, including calling the game developers. I have stumped the entire call center. About 20 minutes later they tell me it is possible to do, but without a walkthrough the chances of me figuring it out are nearly zero. The trick was, it looked like one huge map room with stairs in the corners that all lead to the same map room, but it was really multiple different floors that were all the same pattern. There was no visual difference in them. Their monsters you fought were all the same. The only difference was, depending on what set of stairs you used on each floor, you went to a different version of it. I do not remember the pattern, because this was 30 plus years ago, but it was something like, go up the stairs on the northeast, then down southwest, up northwest, up southeast, some random 4 up and down pattern. And that was just to get to a treasure that you had to have to beat the boss, then follow a different pattern to get to the boss area. I was told not to call the toll-free number again, because it is only used for special situations like this, and the rest of the time no one will answer or even hear it ring. Then he gave me his direct line to call if I had questions or when I finally beat it, because he wanted to know the ending. Too long didn't he read? As a preteen, I was further into the NES game Dragon Warrior than should have been possible without the strat guide that was not on sale yet. Game counselors had to call the game devs for help. So you are the target audience for those ads in comic books. Also, they shoulder hired you lol. I was like 11 or 12, so that was not an option. And yes, I was that target audience. And between my allowance and my parents buying for me, many game guides were bought. When I was 14 I was flying home from staying with my aunt and uncle for the summer. I was looking at a car magazine full of sports cars and the guy next to me asked if I liked cars. I told him I did and that I had spent the summer working for my uncle in his body shop. He said that he was one of the designers for the Pontiac Fiero and asked what I thought about it. I immediately began telling him everything I hated about that car and what I would do to fix it. Put a spoiler on the rear deck lid and add some fiberglass on the side from the top of the rear window down to the rear deck. 2 years later the Fiero GT had those features. I always wondered if it was because of that conversation. Would have been awesome if that was the reason. In college I worked at a bakery owned by Sandra Bullock's sister. It was in Montpelier, Vermont. One week Sandra came to the shop to help her sister. She said she liked my sweater. Rock and roll. I like Sandra Bullock. She is a sweetheart. She is. Jessina, her sister, was just as sweet. My YouTube video was used in Swedish news to highlight how violent GTA 4 was. I live in Scotland. Is that the video where you pick up a hooker and then kill and burn her with a Molotov? Yes. How do you know that? I've kept a close eye on you since you released that video back in 2008. I had a nephrostomy tube coming out of my kidney that my cat once accidentally pulled out, so I had urine leaking out of a hole in my abdomen. The nurses and doctors said they'd never heard of that happening before. I guess upon thinking further maybe that's my cat's claim to fame. I currently have a nephrostomy tube and this is my worst nightmare. That must have hurt so bad. It didn't hurt at all. I was totally confused. I felt wetness and I was like WTF. Back in 2012, Gordon Ramsay was doing an episode of Kitchen Nightmares across the street from the restaurant I was working at. He had eaten a bad tiramisu and heard our restaurant did it better. He asked someone to go across the street to grab a sample of ours versus the restaurant he was currently in. I went into the fridge and put the piece of our tiramisu on a plate and handed it to our owner, who walked it over to Gordon Ramsay. He loved it so much he stood up and gave our owner a kiss on the cheek. I remember that episode. I stole a DVD off of Nickelback's Turbus back in 2002. But why? So they could put it on this very Reddit thread 19 years later. Duh. Came up with a Simpsons fan theory about Homer being in a coma. It went viral. Featured on BuzzFeed, Yahoo, TMZ, etc. You can Google Simpsons fan theory today and it will still pop up. Wow, really impressive. I can't help but read this sarcastically. I was mom's favorite from 1965 through 1967, when my brother was born. I worked briefly in film when I was younger. There was a scene that featured the Real Blue Man Group. One of their drums was missing a bolt and the scene could not go on without it. I swiftly raced to Home Depot to find the correct bolt, found it and brought it back to set. The scene was able to go on. I saved the Blue Man Group. I call bullshit on this one. No one gets in and out of Home Depot in less than an hour, even for just a bolt. You do if you re a goddamn superhero. In Prineville, Oregon, July 3rd, 1997, at the Rainbow Gathering, 10,000 hippies were silenced when I yelled focus. This is all. I have always wanted to go to a rainbow gathering. Got any cool stories? My brother works for the Parks Service and he hates them. He says they trample meadows and leave trash and human feces everywhere. That's my only cool story. Man, that's a shitty story. I can shoot tiny paper balls to a distance of 15 feet with nothing but my belly button. Impressive. Most impressive. But you are not a GD yet. We will not grant you the rank of master. I'm the local critter catcher in my neighborhood. Snake in your apartment. No problem. Possum in your kitchen. I will come over and grab it by the tail. Skink in the sink. I will be over in a blink. Dale. Is that you? Nope. Name S. Rusty. My uncle ran against Tiger King for Oklahoma governor. Coolest comment by far for me. Honestly, same. I got the stray cat outside to love me. This is the best thing of all. High school D.A.R.E. Assembly junior year. The cop gets to the end of his spiel, points out at the crowd, and says, so, if you see a crime, or somebody doing drugs, who you gonna call? I stand up immediately and shout Ghostbusters. Mom was not stoked to pick me up early that day. I feel like I would be the guy to do that too. I mean, there is no other choice. Got into an elevator with Samuel L. Jackson. We looked at each other, smirked, and each made that little chuckle sound that he does. Martha Ducker. My time to shine. I once made a Reddit post that I later found in a BuzzFeed article. Run over by a dump truck. He must have been a very trashy driver. That's so messed up. I invented squeezable mayonnaise. When I was a kid it did not exist yet, and I was always frustrated with getting my hands full of mayonnaise, and I thought how great it would be if it was squeezable. I actually wrote the Kraft company about my idea, but never heard back. But about a year later it was available in grocery stores. Although I have no proof, I'm fairly convinced it was all my idea. Wait, go back. Why were you getting mayonnaise all over your hands? Were you just fingering it out of the jar? You assert dominance by sticking your whole hand in the jar while making fierce eye contact. Now that's a true alpha move. I created FSRM. Experience. Cap, a very popular anti-ransomware tool for system administrators that I gave away for free. Filmed a near miss on my motorcycle, and the clip went stupid viral because I was nice to the lady that nearly turned me into pavement pizza. Made enough from the video to buy a new bike. Even got on TV. I remember watching a video where a woman was turning left, I think, oblivious to the fact that a biker was also there. She missed him by breadth of a hair and was very apologetic. Kept on asking if he was okay again and again. Both the parties handled the situation very maturely. The biker too realized that it was an honest mistake. The video was wholesome. I saw one similar, but the car driver was a male. The biker had to calm the driver down because he was so upset he almost hit him. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.